Hey, hey, hey. Hello, everybody. Namaste, Vitruvians. How's it
Namaste,
going?
namaste.
All right, we are here for a special Monday spotlight. StreamYard is telling me it's having trouble streaming to some locations. Could someone in the comments just let me know if we are coming through? Okay. Um, just looks like we're missing out on a couple of streams here. It should be okay. All right, we're good to go. So let's continue. So,
Good
Mike,
to go.
you are back stateside now. How's it
I'm back.
been with the jet lag?
Jet lag has been it's been rough. As you know, Dubai, the time zone is literally a huge difference from California. So it's the opposite time. So 10 o'clock in Dubai AM is 10 p.m. California time or 11 p.m. And getting back was a little rough. It's like 16-hour flight, and then you have the time difference. And so getting back, I've been working at like 2 a.m. and then all of a sudden I'm crashing at, 10 a.m. You know? But it's been good. It's been good. It's
I,
exciting. There's a lot of work to do, but it's been good.
I'm very excited to get back home, but that jet lag piece is not something I'm looking forward to. But
Yeah.
anyway, let's get right to the point here. So, what we're doing here, folks, today is we're sort of doing an abbreviated spotlight. We were unable to do Friday because there was just too many scheduling challenges. With that, what we're going to do here today is give you an update on the main things, which is the conference, our meetings, and some of the pending things. But we want to do another regular spotlight on Friday, which is 4 days from now, and share a lot more details then also. So I think people want to hear about the conference, and so that's what we'll start off with. So let me just go ahead and put on stage our deck just for the sake of protocol. So this is season 5, episode 4 of the Vitruveo Spotlight. It's October 28th. This is a delayed one from the 26th, from the 25th that we are doing, or
Mhm.
the 26th. And this is where we report on all the events of the past week, and we report on what's coming up in the next week. So without further ado, what we'll do is we'll break down and give you an update on the conference. What Mike's going to do is give you his view of my presentation, and I'm going to talk about the meetings I've been having with galleries. So I'm going to take this off now and let Mike have the stage, and I'm going to be off for a little bit.
Very good. Well, guys, it's definitely been a crazy 7 days. It was a fast trip for me. I was there for maybe 5 days, 6 days, 2 days of which were traveling. But it was not a leisure trip. It was highly productive, brief, and powerful. I think Nick and I had a kind of a divide and conquer strategy when we landed over there. We did have some time, Nick and I, to set up meetings with ourselves and really just sit down and put forth a game plan for the conference, which was really, really good. We had to fine tune, and Nick had to practice the pitch. We had to go through all the different vendors that were participating in the conference to see what sort of collaborative partnerships we could form with those that were present. Aside from investors, there were obviously a lot of different companies that we could find value in and collaborate with. So my portion of the conference was really to focus on attending all of the presentations that were there. There were a lot of updates on Web3 trends, best practices, future of gaming, different protocols that were, coming up, and just the overall industry on what are updates for 2025 and what some of those trends are. And we really wanted to kind of participate. It was kind of a grind to honestly just sit in a chair for 8 hours and watch all of these presentations, but it was really, really good and really helpful. Obviously, there were two different stages at the conference. I know some of you have actually attended these, but there were two different conferences, or two different rooms. One was the main stage, and then there was also a KuCoin miner stage, and then there was I think it was the U miners, which was the main stage, and they had concurrent presentations in at the same time. So I've got to go back and watch some of these on the ones that I could not attend. But we're going to be implementing some really cool strategies and changes that some of my takeaways that I got from the conferences. And so Nick and I, we haven't talked much since I got back because there's obviously a time change difference. And then there's also, Nick is just immersed in meetings since he's been there. Some of the meetings that I've focused on, so obviously I went to the presentations, and then we're also focusing on, post-conference meetings. And I'm excited to get Nick back here because we do want to start setting up a lot of these meetings. Meetings that we're focusing on right now. There's a listing service uh, company that we want to collaborate that will help us list not only Vitru but also Vitro. Obviously, we're going to have an update on the Dex update in terms of development. We have a meeting with them that's going to be coming up. We also have advertising brokers that we've connected with, public relations companies that we've connected with, credit card payment processing companies that we think we found a pretty good solution for that for search and just to use across chain, which is going to be super cool. And we've had a chance to talk with a couple of developers as well that we feel might be a good fit. We just kind of have to, figure out, are they going to be protocol developers or are they going to be more the gaming developers? So we've got a few contacts that we're building up. And then, of course, VCs and investors. So we've got a few of those set up as well. And then Nick will have an update on that. But overall, I tried to post quite a few clips, when I was over there, just kind of give you guys a taste of what's there. It is definitely an exciting conference to be a part of because there's just so much going on. There's so many different facets to Web3 and blockchain development. And it was kind of neat to see kind of where the trends are and where things are headed. But yeah, so I mean that's my update. I think I'll have more traction in terms of the meetings. It's kind of slow because after the conference you have this data dump that you have to kind of go through, and then you have to kind of sparse out, okay, which contacts do I want to build relationships with, and who do we want to reach out to, and then you reach out to them, and then you have to set up the meeting, and they're obviously inundated with, I think there were maybe 10,000 attendees at the conference. So everybody is just scrambling to set up these meetings and really to see what sort of traction and collaborations we can do. So that's going to be my focus this week. And yeah, so we've got probably about 4 or 5 meetings set up for this week. I just gotta circle back with Nick and fine tune his schedule and so that we can all meet at the same time. But yeah, that was it. It was awesome. I mean, overall, it was great, and it was great
That's great.
watching you do your pitch. I mean, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was
You
fun.
did
Let
so
me ask
good,
you a couple
man.
of questions, Mike,
Yeah.
before we wrap up. I think it would be helpful for everyone in the audience to kind of hear your main takeaway in terms of the pulse of crypto from this
Mhm.
conference, Blockchain Life. What do you think is the big thing in crypto?
So the big thing is the migration from Web 2 to Web 3 and how to make that transition smoother because crypto is still in its infancy state. I mean, we think, oh, crypto's been around since 2013. It really hasn't. I mean, that's just literally the infancy stage. If you remember, I remember when the internet came out. And I remember the old dial-up modems, and my friend was sharing with me and saying, "Hey, look, I've got the internet." And I remember seeing the Yahoo page literally come up in frames, and I'm just like, "Okay, this is stupid. I don't get it," And but then you kind of see how the internet has developed in such a short time in the last 20 years, and you're just like, "Geez, was I way off?" And I think that's kind of where crypto is. There's more adoption with enterprise companies. So obviously more corporations are kind of transitioning into crypto. It's not just a risky meme thing anymore. People really are focusing more on the technology of blockchain development and seeing how they can, like things like real world assets, and obviously the gaming aspect is huge. But the tools that they're really using, they're trying to get away from the Web3 limitations and of the complexity of crypto, and really trying to simplify that user experience so that when people are coming into crypto, there's a far less steep learning curve. And so I started, a lot of the presentations had to do with the simplification, wallet solutions, and yeah, I mean, that's kind of a summary, is just people trying to take the complexity out of crypto, which was super cool to see. Because
Yeah, I
that's
got
what's
a
needed.
similar.
If you think about it, that's what's needed in order for mainstream adoption, is really to remove that complexity.
Yeah, I got a similar
Yeah.
feeling from some of the panels I sat in on. I just sat in on a few of them,
Hmm.
and it was very clear to me that almost all the panels had a common thread to them, and one of them was that nothing's been solved yet.
Hmm.
This is still the infancy of this whole decentralized moment, and there's a lot of green field ahead. We have a lot of work to do, but you know what that translates into? A lot of opportunity to
Hmm.
do. And one of the things that stuck out rather is the notion that we now know what doesn't work very well. And so now we can fix those things and rebuild, or sort of do an evolutionary build and do it better, you know. And you were talking about dial-up modems and all that. I remember the same thing, the same cycle we went through with web 2, right? Remember, there was portals and all that. That was the rage, everyone. And then it took a while before we started to understand what people really wanted in web 2, and how those things, how it was at one point very distinctly a huge debate about who the heck is going to put their credit card information online. Like, that is
Hmm.
not going to ever happen, you know. And now look at where we are. So because we fixed all those problems, you know. So I think, to me, it was very clear that in the same vein that you're talking about in terms of user experience and all that, there are some fundamental things that we are seeing a shift in crypto, which is really look at what things we did wrong, and fix those. And the other trend I kind of saw about is people basically talking about how there is a seemingly endless supply of L2s that have no value proposition,
Hmm.
you know. And unfortunately, a lot of money being poured into it, and then going south, you know. So that was another thing a lot of people talked about, is being careful about which L2s you care about, and what they're actually doing, etc. But yeah, overall, the feeling I got was that, okay, as an industry, as an ecosystem, we've got a few years of learning now, and it's time to build better, not just build, but build better, you know. So that
I
was
think we saw that too in Web 2. I did a post on this in Discord, maybe, I don't know, a month ago or something like that. The similarities between crypto and Web 2 development, how when the internet first came out and all the .com range was right around the 2000s, early 2000s, you saw this surge where VCs were just throwing money at Web 2. And it had nothing to do with your value proposition. If you had a cool logo and you had some sort of concept, you got funding. And then after the crash, the Web 2 crash, because people realized that there was no substance to the value propositions, there was no real company. It was just more of an idea. And these startups had, 100 million in funding or 50 million in funding, and all they would do is spend their money on branding and pool tables in the conference room, and free food for everybody. And that was
yeah,
kind of like the rage. And then when the crash happened, it exposed the companies that had true value, which was the PayPal's, it was the Amazons, it was, obviously Google. And then people were, really building on those core blue chips. And we're seeing the same thing in crypto, how we had the first major bull run, you know, and the blockchains came out, NFTs came out, things like Bored Apes and all of these things that really didn't have any real utility, but they were exciting, and people were throwing money at them. And the problem is when there's no substance or no, value propositions, no use cases, it's just going to pop, as soon as the interest fades, because there's no utility behind these crypto projects. Now what we're seeing is people are focused more on real utility and carving that out. And the blue chips of real utility now are starting to form. Obviously Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, these sort of things. But the meme coin range in Solana, there was a lot of talk about that. Is just kind of like a meme coin is no different than investing in Bored Apes. It's things like Dogecoin and some of these other, there really is no utility behind it. It's kind of a Ponzi scheme, because there's nothing to it. It's really just based on demand, supply and demand. And so now the shift is really, okay, let's talk about real core utility. Let's talk about what corporations can actually use with blockchain technology. And it's amazing, the way people are really fine tuning the technology to apply it to real world situations. So that's really exciting. And I think this whole Web 2 Web 3 with gaming, how they're really trying to, rather than push the Web 3, they're really using just Web 3 as the technology and with a Web 2 interface or a
Mhm.
UX. And we're seeing more of that where the technology is being used, but it's not the face, I guess, of the actual project. It's more of just the technology and the the way the protocol actually works, which is kind of cool, to see that transition.
Yeah. Right, now let's talk about the pitch and also talk about gallery meetings. Yeah. So, but before I start talking about the pitch, let me just say what the goals of the pitch were, because that's
Mhm.
kind of important. So the goals of the pitch were, first, to introduce Vitruveo to the world. We have not done a full-on presentation about Vitruveo in a public forum at all to date like this. So that was our first goal. Uh, our second goal was the sniff test. What I mean by that is, look, we are all in this ecosystem. We hear about things all the time, etc. But when complete strangers who are in the tech business, in the crypto ecosystem, hear about it, um, how do they feel about it? What do they say about it? And but the sniff test simply indicates, does this pass muster? Does this seem like something viable? So that's the second thing. The third thing is, to some extent, to start getting leads for both partners and investors. And by that, what I mean is, initiate the process. As I have indicated in these meetings before, um, there's a pattern. There's a cycle. Someone hears about you, then you set up a meeting. You do that intro meeting. At that meeting is generally with lower level sort of analysts or etc. And if you pass that meeting, then you go on to meet with the general partner or a partner. And then if you pass that one, then maybe you get in on a Monday morning meeting of the firm, and then you might get a term sheet or something like that. So that's generally the way things go. So our goal was to get the first thing, and we did. We have a few inbounds now, and they continue to come in. So what we have to do now is follow up on those. So those are the goals. Now let's talk about the pitch format and what was expected. So pitch format was rigid, exactly 6 minutes, microphone cut off, no chance to talk beyond it. There were, I believe, 10, maybe 12 judges. Uh, we received no criteria on what we were being judged on, and basically the panelists did their scoring, and that evening the results were delivered. Unfortunately, we did not win. I would have loved to have won, but the team that did win, there was only one prize, basically one winner. uh, it was uh, it was a DEX analysis tool, correct? if I'm not
It was an
mistaken.
arbitrage scanning.
Arbitrage scanner. Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Arbitrage, but on for Dexys. Yeah. So they it was a very rapid 3-minute pitch they did. Their tool is really great. I think they have some million plus users, if not.
Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
so. They've been around. Yeah. Let's talk about what I did to prepare for my pitch and also what the pitch was about. So 6 minutes, really difficult to tell the whole story in detail. My goal was to hit the high notes and to really focus on what we were doing that's unique and different as an L1, and to also end with a call to action. You have to remember that with these pitches, you've got an audience there. Of course, you got a live audience, which we estimate was, I think, between 2,500 and 3,000 people.
Hmm.
But it's really the plays afterward, because it goes on the conference social media site, etc., etc. All of that will work out over time. It impacts SEO, etc. So that's also good stuff, right? So in planning for this pitch, like I said, I wanted to hit the high notes, and I really wanted to get away from a pure tech presentation, of which I have done countless. Which is why, if as you see in the slides, I talked more about a world without art and so on and so forth, and then hit the high notes on sort of our application, and then the overall community and ecosystem, etc. So you can be the judge on whether I hit the right notes or not. But I tell you, it is really difficult to do this at 6 minutes without getting people all overwhelmed, and also getting overwhelmed yourself doing the pitch. So I think I did well. I think I did my best. I can always improve, but yeah, I'm proud of the pitch we did. I left nothing behind. I put everything into it, and I spent pretty much all night rehearsing the timings. The timings are the key thing there, because you get ahead or behind in that talk, and then you have to rush through some slides there, and it's so tight. The previous conference talks, to give you some example that I've always done, I had dev talks, like Microsoft centric conferences, where my talk is almost always 1 hour, so it's laid back and it's so easy compared to 6 minutes. This was definitely an elevator pitch to a room full of people is what it was, and yeah. So, Mike, what was your immediate reaction to the pitch?
So I had a chance to watch all of the pitches, and there were, I think, about 15 pitches, somewhere around there. And I think your delivery, there were three, I would say three projects that delivered the pitches really well. I think you were one of the best delivered pitches, in the sense that combined, because I'm also a public speaker, and I've been doing public speaking all my life. I thought you did an amazing job with your confidence of being articulate. You identified the problem, what the solution was, what the value proposition was, what the traction was, a little bit of the tech. So I think the way you handled the presentation within 6 minutes, as you know, for the past 3 months, 4 months, the team has really been trying to simplify the ecosystem as a whole, because it's become so complex. Not just with the protocol, but you have, the different verticals and that sort of thing. So trying to communicate that in 6 minutes is actually a pretty insane challenge. But I think you did an amazing job, considering the complexities of our ecosystem and simplifying it. And I know that we're going to get more simple and more simple as we lead to list. Um, so my some of the pitches were just really bad, you know, um, in terms of, like, you had no idea what problem they were solving. They were either too tech focused, or they didn't have any substance, any real world, problem solving utility. And so I thought we did a really good job of delivering that. There are some very smart people in this space. That's all I'm going to say. Like, some of the presentations, I'm like, what is this guy talking about? Because he was like clearly a developer and just kind of spewing everything. And I'm just like, as a non-tech person, um, I was just like following maybe 20% of what he was talking about, because he was getting really into um, a lot of the details. But it was a great experience. I think it was awesome, and I thought you did a great job. I recorded. I brought my camera, so I brought this telephoto lens and had it all set up on a tripod and had everything going. And then I thought, you know what, I'm gonna double tap here. In my business, I deal with live events quite a bit, so I always have a backup plan for everything that we do. So I set up my iPhone in 4K to record the presentation as well. So I did a close up as well as a wide angle view, and sure enough, my camera overheated during the presentation. So I'm glad I was able to use the footage from the iPhone that we did in 4K, and so it worked out well.
That's
But
great.
yeah, it was great.
Yeah, thanks for the feedback, everyone. I appreciate it very much. All right, so let's move on. So when we build a startup, I'm gonna back up a little bit here and talk about product strategy and all of that as we get to the gallery thing. When you build a startup, uh, I think most founders intuitively know that your startup can either be a vitamin or a painkiller. And the painkillers are have a greater chance of success in the world because you're solving a real problem. Well, one of the things that I approach these meetings with galleries is with a little bit of apprehension, because we already know the narrative about artists in general because it's all out in the open, right? With Web3, with Foundation, OpenSea, etc. We know exactly what problem we are solving there and how to solve it. That's a known entity. But with galleries, institutions, uh, we haven't seen that in Web3 yet. We know that they are that 84% on my slide that are not yet in Web3 because of all the reasons we articulated. And now it was time to find out if we've built a vitamin or a painkiller. And so it was with some apprehension that I saw my schedule filling up. So basically, uh, I would say the term hired, but it's really there is a local artist here who a celebrated artist who's also the editor of an art magazine. And I actually requested her, hey, could you sort of liaise for us and talk to the galleries and get me into a meeting? Because remember, in this business, whether it's investors, partners, customers, warm contacts, warm intros are everything. You could email all day to an investor or hundreds of investors and get no response, but one warm intro from another investor or an attorney or a founder of one of their companies, and boom, you're in. You're in for a meeting, right? So, um, what I said, all the galleries, give me some warm intros. Just let them know I'm here. I'm not selling anything. That was important, and to just get the meeting. She says I don't even tell them anything. I'll just set up the meeting and say that there's an entrepreneur here from the San Francisco, and just take the meeting. So I did that, and I saw my schedule filling up very rapidly, and I'm like, oh wow, this is like back to back to back to back meetings. There was one day where I did 5 hours of straight meetings, and it was pretty brutal because not only had to finish up the one meeting but go to the next meeting. Luckily they were in one area here where there's a lot of galleries. The other part is, for those of you who have visited Dubai lately, uh, it is a bad traffic situation. I was in Bombay and I've been in the Bay Area, and this is absurd. A mile sometimes takes 30 minutes to traverse. They have this main artery here called Sheikh Zayed Road. It is a brutal. If you have to go on that road, and which you have to for a lot of reasons, you're stuck there. It's really frustrating. And also, for whatever reason here, the Ubers, which is a lifeblood for us when you're traveling around here, the Ubers, it says 2 minutes away, and then you watch, and it changes to 8 minutes away. Then you watch, it changes to 12 minutes away, and I'm like, how on earth is that possible? But
Mhm.
it happens. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the point. So, startup, vitamin, painkiller, blah blah blah. All right. So I saw these gallery meetings with apprehension a little bit. And by the way, guys, I'm trying to give you the whole lowdown here about how I felt, how I approached it, etc. So pardon me if I'm going into more detail than you need, but I feel like I just want to tell you because this is part of the experience, um, anyway. So Pam, you and I have been working on a deck, but one of the things that people probably also don't know very well is that decks are a follow up to meetings. They are not the beginning of a meeting. I have never done a VC presentation where I have had a deck. It just doesn't work that way. You talk, you tell a story, you answer questions, and then later you follow up in an email with the deck. So we are working on that deck. We'll get it done. So all I had is my thoughts, my ideas, and really a little bit of intelligence from their website about what they do, things like that. You always get intelligence, when you approach a partner or anyone like that. And here I'm approaching what I consider potential customers, who are really, really important. So, lo and behold, the very first meeting was with a gallery that had a zero two-dimensional artworks, all 3D sculptures, weavings, all of that. So here I am,
Nice.
ready to do my pitch, and all of it goes out the window. And now I have to redo and rethink everything on the fly. Um, Also, the Uber was late and I had to sprint to the meeting, so I was perspiring heavily and all. So it's a drama. Anyways, so sit down here and uh, start doing my pitch. Now, it's important here to understand that we're talking to galleries. They don't know anything about blockchain or even care about it, right? But what they do know is what they don't like, what they've heard about NFTs and all that. So I start my pitch with that. I say, well, you've probably heard about NFTs and all that, and the problems with scams and all that kind of stuff. So I just go right away into the negative stuff and get their agreement that, yep, we are. And then I'll do my pitch. I don't know that I do a slightly different one for each one, and I'll get to this particular situation in just a moment. Uh, but here's what I'm looking for in these meetings, and in I'm very happy to say that in almost all these meetings, within about 15 minutes of doing my pitch, I hear the five magic words that I want to hear, which is yes, we really need that when we talk about our solution. So, what does that mean? That it means that I'm pitching a painkiller. Um, yes, we really need that. This is after I explained how exhibit stores work, how the gallery can build their own branded website, get their artists on board, and really create new avenues of monetization while preserving their ability to actually let the artists choose what kind of licensing model they want. Do they want it to be digital only? Which is unheard of for these artists because they are talking about physical artworks, right? Digital only, digital plus physical, or physical only. Now, bear in mind that there isn't a single gallery I went to where the price point of a single artwork was less than $1,000. The range that I heard, I always ask them, "What's the range?" Was 1,000 all the way to 250,000 for one artwork was the range I heard. So these are um, yeah. So um, I went through my pitch, and basically the goal coming out of this was to get an opportunity to send them the detailed deck with a link for a form for them to fill out and a list of questions to send out to their artists and to their patrons. So it's the gallery owner in the middle, their artists and their patrons. And what we want to do is have them answer questions about, and very brief questions. And you can sort of anticipate what some of those questions might be. Like, would you be interested in this? Have you used something like this before, etc. The questions that I got were mostly around the capital aspect of it, because we already anticipated that we have a couple of models under which exhibit stores will work, where when you have a store, the owner of the store, in this case the gallery, can choose a delegated model or a representative model. The models are like this. If they are a delegated model, it means the artist has delegated their entire responsibility of marketing their artwork and getting it sold to the gallery. So the gallery is a full service organization at that point. They are responsible for doing the consignment, editing the metadata, all of that kind of stuff. That's delegated. It also means the artist is exclusive. They will not sell directly, they will only sell through the exhibit store, right? So the representative model is where an artist is represented by a gallery, but they are free to do what they want elsewhere also. So they might potentially be associated with multiple galleries. They might be an indie also. But here's the deal breaker. If you're in a delegated relationship with one gallery, you can only be in a delegated relationship with one gallery. You cannot have any others. So I explained it in not so many terms to them, and they were satisfied. The next thing is, as I said, about capital and about the flow of monies. So in the decentralized world, we have the ability to actually uh, cause the capital to flow directly when a purchase is made to the gallery, their portion, to the artist, their portion, etc. But turns out, um, I didn't say this, but it turns out that most galleries want the funds to come to them first, and then they distribute it out to the artists, which is fine. I mean, it is the model, and they want that. So that worked out really really well, and uh, the model we have developed so far, how we are architecting, is spot on. This is exactly what galleries need. Now, getting back to my first gallery with the 3D art, how do we handle that? Well, I showed them examples of what we are doing with augmented reality, and they loved it. They're like, wow, that is like mind blowing and completely exactly what we need for these 3D objects, etc. How do we do it? So I said, well, you would need to have these objects scanned, basically by a special purpose uh, photography and software that looks at and makes sure that all 360 degrees of the object is created. It's not just 360 degrees; it's also the top and the bottom, etc. Right? So they're like, okay, well, how do we do that? And uh, I said, well, this is something for us to learn also. We want to be able to have galleries with these objects onboarded. So I said, I'll look for a photographer while I'm here and do that and get it going. Long story short, just by chance, I was at an opening event for one of the galleries that we are talking to, and I met a photographer who does exactly that. So now I'm gonna have him go and do a prototype object scan, and we are gonna make our augmented reality feature for 3D objects in galleries also real. So we'll immediately go from being able to do 2D objects to doing 3D, well, 2D visual art to doing 3D also, and have a good solution for that problem. So, long story short, uh, I've universally all the galleries I've talked to are amenable to moving forward, which is great. And I had a few sort of let's just say miscommunications about timing, etc. So 3 meetings that were set up didn't actually happen out of 12. So that's 9 meetings that I actually did. So that would be potentially 9 galleries coming on board. Now, bear in mind that what I've been doing is sales calls basically, and any person who's done sales calls knows what it is. Like you get through objections first, you get to the point where it's a cycle. It's a cycle. So we'll go through the motions, etc. And the part where we will actually find out how many galleries will actually be on board and how quickly will be uh, when we are able to have them experience our software, and actually have that process nailed down. I know from building products before, I know that the first two, three will be very rough. We will probably make some mistakes when we learn from them, and we'll fine tune the workflow. But there is a workflow we are planning here where step one is go meet with the gallery. Obviously, I'm doing physical meetings right now, but that's not going to be the case moving forward, right? It's going to be Zoom meetings, etc. And that too, for the first, I would say, probably less than 50 galleries, at which point we want to automate this, right? They learn about us through our marketing efforts or word of mouth from other galleries. Then they go to a website and they self sign up. And our threshold is 15 minutes. Of course, it's going to take way more than 15 minutes for the gallery owner to be convinced, to talk to the artists, to talk to their patrons, and all of that. But the logistical part of it should take no more than 15 minutes. So, anyway, next steps here are to do follow ups with all these galleries, get those questionnaires and deck and other information to them. um, uh, they are galleries, they are not technology companies, so expect that it's going to be a slow process. It's not like in hours or days or whatever, but typically I think weeks is reasonable. So like, yeah, I'll get back to you next week is a reasonable answer that I got from a lot of people about that. Yeah, so overall I was really, really pumped about the success. As I said, I was very apprehensive going in because this is a major part of our strategy, and it would not have been devastating at all, but it would have been a setback a little bit because then we have to backtrack and rethink how we're going to approach this market, etc. But I'm very pleased to report that we are on track. We've talked to customers now, and the customers are good with what we've presented so far and how our approach is. So I am very optimistic about our success and our ability to scale the gallery aspect, which is important because that's what's going to bring the new patrons on board. With galleries come artists and patrons, and really also some really, really good artists, which we need for our high-end streaming solution to the customers we'll be pitching to. Like when we pitch to, let's say, an airport or an airline for their lounge, or a hospital or something like that, we want to show them and be able to speak to the artists and the experience of those artists, and the how those artworks have been celebrated in the streams we are building. So this is part of the next strategy also, and I have shared the timeline here, but we are looking to fast track this, and in the month of October, which is ending, we've already got an alpha going of stores, and so we should have a beta here in the next I would say within the next week or so. But that will be the stage one beta. Stage one beta is just really about collectives, and stage two is where the gallery artist invitation and all of that comes into play, and then we'll go into streaming. Speaking of collectives, I'm also very pleased to report that I finished wrapped up meetings today, and I'm going to talk about it in a couple days with an amazing collective leader from Iran who flew down here to meet with me. She's got an amazing a group of about 100 artists that are represented there. So we're going to go move forward together and get some great materials created in Farsi to help all these artists understand how things go. Because remember, a store solution is not only about institutions, it's also about collectives, groups. So if a photographer has a group of buddies that they work together, they can set up their own exhibit store and things like that. So lots of exciting things in terms of scaling this up beyond individual artists. That does not by any stretch of the imagination mean we are going to leave independent artists behind. That's our bread and butter. That's where our whole platform that we are building for. But without having the institutions on board, we can't move forward. It's just that simple. um, the institutions being on board is also very valuable for independent artists, because now the institutions can see the independent artists that are on the platform, and we're going to provide a mechanism by which they can invite an independent artist and saying, hey, would you like to join our gallery and be represented by us? That is a huge honor for an artist to be invited like that by a gallery, because most of the time it's the other way around. An artist is seeking out galleries and trying to get themselves represented. But because we are flattening the whole process, the whole globe, by making all these artists available, as long as people are doing their best and creating the best creative output, I think it's going to be a win-win for everybody. So I am exhausted, honestly, meetings, but I'm very, very happy. I'm very, very pleased with the fact that we've got a solution that is actually going to be useful for these organizations. So that's my wrap. I'm sure there's some questions in there. I haven't been paying attention, but we'll
Can I speak to what you're talking about a little bit,
yeah,
Nick?
please do.
So over the past like 3 months, the main, I guess, roadmap strategy that we've been kind of tackling is working out the UX, the back end of really unloading or uploading artists, getting them on board, fine tuning all of that. The problem is that we could have literally 10 million artworks and 10 million artists on the actual platform, but if there's no buyers, there's no useful tool or useful model. The other component to that is we have to have a way of actually producing a real product outside of, let's say, a digital piece of artwork in a wallet. There has to be some sort of real product that's generated from our solution. So we're shifting gears right now as we lead up to List. I know there's a few questions here on List and kind of confirming if we're still on track for January. We're shifting right now where we're really focusing on the patrons or the art buyers. The artists will always come where the buyers are, right? So the shift is really going to be for galleries, which is going to be um, a huge component of those patrons bringing real art buyers to the ecosystem. And so we're shifting to that, and we're going to be exploring other art buyers and really getting them onboarded on the system. So it's kind of like you can't lead with the art buyers first because there's no product. So you have to start with unloading some product first, which we have done through our granted BUSD. Now we're shifting where we're going to bring on the art buyers and just kind of solidifying the actual use case and what problems are we solving, taking a gallery, let's say, and giving them a global market, not just a brick and mortar store. So there's a lot of different problems that we're solving for art buyers, and obviously the creator level is going to help us sort through the existing artists on our platform, really to categorize them, and so that we can create opportunities for artists in the ecosystem, really to get them global exposure and representation through these galleries as well. So there's a lot of different things that we're solving. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we tackled that a little bit and talked about that we are shifting gears a little bit to focus on the art buyers outside of just the community, or having an NFT in your wallet really is not a compelling um, product. We really do want to start building out the print on demand so that the artwork that's in your wallet, you can actually do something with it. You can actually print it out and it's drop shipped directly to you in a print that's framed or on acrylic or on streaming. So that's kind of where we're shifting gears right now, on top of VCs and the development aspect of the protocol and exhibit and the gaming, and it's it's a lot.
It's a
But
lot, but there are priorities, and
mhm.
I just want people to calibrate expectations and know that we are very forthright in reporting what is going on in these, so that you can be informed, right? And you can also know what is coming up based on these things. So Mike just mentioned about print on demand. That's kind of an important thing, because uh, right now the world views Web3 art through the lens of NFTs only. And what we are saying is we are going to introduce new licensing capabilities that enable art to be monetized without necessarily having this token minted, right? So the ability to stream art, for example, doesn't require a token. The ability to print art doesn't require a token. You do not have to own an artwork in order to be licensed by the creator to print it somewhere on a shirt, umbrella, whatever it is, right? So we are kind of stepping away from NFTs as the holy grail, because it turns out they're absolutely not, right? So we are talking
Mhm.
more in terms of digital collectibles and the representation of that. And as I mentioned, for the artists in particular coming in through galleries, they only know about their world as a physical artwork. And let me also point out one other thing that's really important. Uh, we spend a huge amount of time right now educating artists that the build to flip model is the wrong one. What I mean by that is there are many artists in Web3 that are conditioned to create an art piece, mint it, and expect to sell it and monetize it. Uh, but that's kind of dried up right now because there aren't enough collectors. Blah blah blah. That's the problem we are solving, etc. But here's the difference between gallery artists and the existing Web3 artists. I say gallery artists in the sense Web2 artists. Okay, is they are conditioned to wait a long time, months before they see a sale. So they are already not expecting to monetize right away. That's the important point because of the high value, right? The high price of this. It's not every day that someone goes and buys $100,000 what dollars artwork, etc. So it's a different model, but those same artworks can still be printed, still be streamed, and can create those additional revenue streams, which is very attractive and very intriguing because they don't have to sell the artwork in order to kind of make money. So there's a lot of new things to consider, but you're absolutely right in that we're going to start focusing on growing our patron program. In fact, one of the approaches that we'll be taking is as part of the onboarding incentive for a gallery is they'll be able to offer their collectors, their patrons, matching credits. So we'll match a portion of whatever purchase VUSD they buy with credits that, which we'll talk about here about the credits that are being retired or deprecated rather. But yeah, all in all, there's a lot going on, but there is a method. There's a method to all the. I won't say it's madness because it is what we have to do, but there is an order to these things that we are trying to bring in, and we are trying to establish success one thing at a time, so we built the platform, we've got a certain number of artists on board, we went through some growing pains with consignment, we've mostly ironed out all of those. Right now we are going through some growing pains, and this is a continual battle, folks. There are bad actors, there are horrible actors, there are horrible people, unfortunately, and they continue to wreak havoc, and it requires me and the moderators to spend an inordinate, and I kid you not, a lot of time. Thank you, Ariko. A lot of time just battling it out. And I wish these people would just go away. They are making life miserable for our entire community and taking away valuable resources. The grants will end tomorrow in a few days, and so at least then we'll get some relief from it. But they continue to be bad actors among not only the investors, but also the artists that are onboarding. There are some really bad uh, artists out there who are stealing wholesale another artist's identity and all their artworks and listing them and selling them on here. And then we find out from an artist that, hey, I don't know anything about Vitruveo, and my artwork is there, and it was sold. And so then we have to backtrack and deal with that. So there's a lot of bad guys out there, and they are causing us issues, but we'll deal with them. And our if you think about, if you're an artist and you think about, hey, why is this check there, or why is this barrier there? Blame it on the bad actors. We want to be as open of a platform as possible, as decentralized as possible. But guys, it is not possible to do that and keep the system alive for everybody else when there are so many bad people. So just know that we do things in a way that kind of balances things, where we try not to hurt the good people, while inflicting maximum pain on the bad people. So anyway, so that's my gallery reports. Lots of follow-ups to do. Tomorrow is my last full day here, um, and I will be back on the 30th, uh, which is Wednesday, I believe. Yeah, and because of the wonders of time travel, I will arrive exactly 1 hour after I depart here. So
You're
that is
flying to
kind
the
of cool.
future.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
No, not 1 hour. I think it's 2 or 3 hours, something like that. Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah. So anyway, that's
We've got a few
yeah,
questions. Do you want to kind of start hammering
yeah.
out
Let's do it.
questions, or
Yeah,
do
yeah,
we
yeah.
have more?
Yeah.
Okay. And I've got a little bit of insight to share as well, but I'll kind of double tap on that once we get here. Um, Me asks, how certain are we today, 1028, that we'll actually be actively listed in a SEX in January? It honestly feels like a stretch at this point. So, you know, I'm pretty confident for January. Like I said before, we are in talks with a company that this is their sole job is to get us listed, and they already have contacts with KuCoin and that sort of thing. We're trying to work with an exchange, a tier one exchange that has a huge user base as well as works in the US. So those are kind of like the things that we're trying to shoot for, and we have meetings scheduled up. We're already kind of planning that right now. The thing that we really have to tighten up over the next 2 months, which really is kind of what I was speaking to before, which is the flywheel effect, where the combination of the buyers and the sellers are all kind of working together, and the ecosystem is growing organically by itself without us pushing incentives in order to generate volume. In the beginning, whenever you build something, you have to there's an acquisition cost, for getting users onto your platform. We're more of a intermediary where we're bringing buyers and sellers together. Similar to an Amazon. Nick and I have actually been talking about this quite a bit, is trying to build an Amazon model within Vitruveo, where Amazon really started off just selling books, and they were really just a seller. Then they shifted gears in order to bring buyers and sellers together. So they allowed other bookstores to come on, have their store sell books. And then, they kind of built out that model. So we're trying to do the very similar thing, that we'll want to become the Amazon for artwork. And artwork, if you look at the industry as a whole, it's very fragmented, it's very fractured. There's no cohesive one-stop source for all things artwork. You have things like Fiverr, where you have consignment services. This is something I'm really passionate about, is bringing that to Vitruveo, where we have real use case B2B, where let's say you want to have a logo designed, you go to Fiverr and then you hire an artist and they design it. Well, why can't Vitruveo have that, where we have consignment services? So I really do want to build out another vertical that really is focused on consignment and B2B. That's going to really help the real outside of just art appreciators, real utility of people that need artists for their business, and that sort of thing. So we want to kind of build that and bring that together in one source. Um, so yeah, I mean, Nick and I are super aggressive on hitting that January date. We don't have any hesitations on whether or not we're going to hit that deadline. Nick, do you want to share anything on
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I'll be even more direct than that. The math on this is pretty straightforward. We have to raise $1 million, actually a little less than 1 million now, since we got some funds uh, from Veo there. We have to list that. We have to get those funds in, because those funds are for our operating runway and for listing and liquidity. We get that in tomorrow, we will start the listing process day after tomorrow. It's that simple. So we are focused now on finishing that raise. It's not a very large raise, guys. It's so we'll get it done. We've got 60 days. We've already started the process of as Mike said, working with an agent. In this case, we've not done that before. We've tried to go direct, and it's been an uphill. It's been a steep vertical cliff, but working with an agent, I think, changes things drastically. And we spent quite a bit of time talking to these folks, and they have a lot of credibility. They have got a good track record, and they gave us good numbers on what to expect to pay and things like that. And I think it's pretty much um, get this capital in as quickly as possible, start the conversation, and get going. Um, so that's basically it for the centralized exchanges. We want to get there as quickly as possible. We know that for a lot of artists, they're on the sideline because I told them to. I said, if you need capital right away, it's not the right time for you. We would like to bring all those artists. I think we can easily, in a week's time, double or even triple the number of artists and artworks on here as soon as we have this listing activated. The other thing is, as always, when people ask when is something, I think that's the wrong question to ask. You should first ask the question, what will it cost, before you ask the question when. So if you ask, when are you going to do this? Why don't you first start by thinking, what will that cost? Because remember, we have to manage our capital wisely and make sure that we can continue to grow and continue to get where we are. So all questions that are when, I'm just going to sort of preempt them by saying, ask the question, what will it cost? If the number is anywhere north of $10,000, just know that it's going to be slow going. We're going to slow roll that because we want to
Hmm.
preserve what we have and kind of make sure that we can get to our goal fast.
Yeah, we've really been fiscally responsible with the funds that the blockchain has. We're not just reckless with spending. We're very conservative when it comes to spending money. Um, and I think that we're actually really excited with the traction that we've received. Some of the feedback that we got from the conference was great. So for me, I think it's just super optimistic at this point.
Yeah, and I'll
Next
just address
question. Go ahead.
the other thing with regard to marketing. We kind of held off a little bit on that because we got into this conference and the opportunity to speak, and now we've got a deck and we've got a message clearly done. So now we can really push the video marketing. We also got the space or orbit approach also. So all of that is now coming together here, and we will we are very aware that uh, VO sales are not going to happen unless we market them aggressively. It's no secret, right? And so we are going to do that. So all of this is coming together quite nicely at this point with the conference uh, being a vector for kicking things off. So you have to look at the conference as marketing for Vail. Okay, it
Mhm.
is exactly that. It's thinly veiled, but it is. We invested in coming here, in presenting to a lot of people in the crypto industry all at once. Right? It's a starter for marketing. So
Mhm.
just remember, it's not like when are we going to start marketing? It's already started. One channel, and we're going to add more channels here.
Yep. Rohan, great to see you. Will the galleries also send the physical artwork to the buyer if in the future they buy the artwork NFT on Vitruveo?
We don't want that to be an option. We don't want it to be, will you send us the physical artwork? We want the buyer to actively license exactly what they want. They want only digital, they want digital and physical, or they want only physical. The buyer chooses at the point of purchase what license they are going to have. That actually brings up a very good point because I spent more than a half hour with one gallery discussing the model behind that, the physical aspect of it, because it is immensely complicated. If anything is complicated about stores, it's going to be this part. Because think about it, right? You've got a global audience that is going to buy a physical piece that needs to be now delivered to someone in an arbitrary country. So, but at the point of purchase, just as you have with Amazon and others, uh, you have to estimate, you have to know the dimensions of the artwork. If it's not a 2D artwork, if it's a 3D sculpture, the box size it goes into, the packaging and all of that, and how it's going to be shipped, where it's going to be shipped, what carrier you're going to use, the costs of that, and they are substantial. They are not trivial costs. That, and then funds. How are the funds escrowed? Do they immediately get sent to the gallery? What happens if uh, the deal is not fulfilled? What is our role in that? As uh, do we have liability for that? Do we need to get liability insurance for that? These are all very complex questions that we will all have to grapple with here as we deal with physical artworks. It's not as simple as, yeah, you got a license for physical artwork and we paid the gallery and hopefully it got shipped. It's not that. What's the cost of it? How do we capture that, etc.? So lot of things to consider there. But these are not unsolved problems. Other people are doing it in Web 2. It's happening. We got to learn from them, apply those lessons here in a
Yep.
decentralized manner.
Yeah, this one, Bugs Life asked a very similar question. Is there a way if we buy art from the galleries, are we also going to get the physical art delivered to our location if we buy the same blockchain as digital art? Again, it's the same
It's the same question.
same
Yeah.
answer as you gave. And it might be, guys, that obviously there's another layer of fractional ownership for more like some of these artworks that are 250,000. You might get into a situation where it's fractional ownership. um, we're exploring that. Uh, the simplest way of us, engaging in these galleries is that we're really just an affiliate of the gallery, where we're receiving a commission in order to generate that sale, and everything is done through the gallery. But we're going to be exploring, I guess, the sales process, and how what that looks like as we develop this affiliate program and onboard galleries. We just need, these meetings to get feedback from them, find out what their needs and concerns are, find out the simplest way to execute on this. And I'm hoping that Nick and I can carve that out in the next 2 weeks. Is kind of a simple answer, or at least one form of it. Um, okay. I highlighted this comment because I think it's really, really important. Build to flip is going away. Phantom, you are absolutely right. Build to flip is going away. This was really the crypto model, where you build something that sounds good and then you flip it and then you cash out and you have a massive J curve on the charts and the project dies. um, there was a lot of talk about this in the conference. Is the crypto community, the crypto global community as a whole, has really been trained for fast money, and where you jump on a project, there's massive momentum in the beginning. Everybody kind of 1x, 2x, 10x, 1000x. Everybody cashes out and then it dies. That's kind of, but if you really think about it, what's really happening is the people in the beginning of the project are the ones that are making the money. Then people find out about it through YouTube influencers, that sort of thing. They get on the hype from like a 1 month old post, and then it surges up and then everybody cashes out, but there's no real utility. Then the chart dies and then everybody loses interest and they're on to the next thing. So that's really the crypto model that the industry is kind of getting away from. And now you're starting to see real businesses. And case in point, a lot of these video games, I sat through a lot of presentations on video game development. There are some companies that have been developing a game for 4 years and they're not launched yet. And they've got all this VC money, um, you know, but it hasn't even launched yet. But the point is that they've taken 4 years to develop this thing. We don't have 4 years, of luxury. But then you're battling. Okay, is this game fun to play, or is it just based on play to earn and tokenomics, and then following the same strategy as some flip? Um, so what the gaming community is really shifting is really to build fun games. A lot of Web3 games really focused on tokenomics first and then gameplay, where that's reversing now, where it's really no, 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 no. We're going to focus on gameplay first, and then we're going to bring in tokenomics. So we're going to lead with a game that's actually fun to play. And some of the people that some of the developers that are seasoned gaming developers, really we're trying to reinforce the point that every game has a lifespan. It may be a year, it may be 5 years, but eventually it's going to fade. And so the importance of, if you want to build a billion dollar franchise, a lot of Web 2 games are billion dollar franchises. These are not games that are just built in 2 months. These are games that are built, over a long period of time. So Nick and I have been struggling with this in terms of blocks in that gaming vertical. Do we really just want to build a fast game just to please the community and launch it and get it out there? And we're struggling to give weekly updates on some of these games, things like Sabong and also Vortex and some of the other ideas that we have, for Vlox. We're struggling with that balance of trying to please the community and give weekly updates, but at the same time, we're trying to build something that's actually fun to play, that has a profit potential as well. And it's not easy. When we took on Vortex, we initially thought about, okay, let's just get rid of the Vortex NFTs. Let's figure something out. And I'm like, this is not the right approach. This thing is going to crash in 3 months or 2 months, and it's not really going to have a compelling use case where it's a fun game to play. So we've kind of slowed things down a little bit and really trying to focus on the gameplay and really building it out. But we should have an update. Nick and I spent, I don't know, how long was it? Maybe 3 hours, Nick, on Vortex, in Dubai, and really carving out, the gameplay. And I know there's going to be an update of Sabong this week. So we do have some updates that are coming. But just, I, I really want to echo, kind of what Nick was saying, that um, this whole build to flip model is going away, where people are really starting to focus on real utility. And you can't build real utility in a month. It's just not possible. And I know that, when you look at projects like Seifu or projects like some meme token or something, you can literally launch that in a weekend. It's not that difficult. You throw up a website, you go to Pink Sale, you do a initial token offering, do it at a discount, and then just pump it, and then everybody dumps, and then it's over. We're all trying to get away from that. And the not just us, but the entire industry is trying to get away from that, because that's what's given crypto a bad name. Now we're really focusing on real utility, and people are trying to figure it out on how to use the technology in real business applications. So that's, but Phantom, I appreciate the comment, because you're absolutely right. The negative sides of crypto, of just burn and churn, are going away. Or at least, I think there was a statistic that was mentioned at the conference that 8,000 tokens are launched every day. I mean, think about that. 8,000 tokens launched every single day, and the vast majority of them are junk. And I think we all know that. It was nice to see some of the pitches. Nick, you can probably attest to this, that a lot of the pitches were utility focused. They were apps. They were real utility, and that's something that was really refreshing to see, at least from the industry as a whole.
Yeah, before you let that comment go away, you answered it very interestingly. You answered it entirely about crypto.
Hmm.
I interpreted that question entirely about art.
Oh, okay.
You know, so as we know, a lot of uh, uh, artists know, there is a category of artists. Let's call them a marketing artist. They focus on creating artworks and churning them out quickly, built for sales. They are built to move. They check out what collectors are buying, and they just shape their art that way. They will not succeed long term. They are bound to fail. There's just no way they can succeed long term, because at the end of the day, sustainability of your success as an artist is going to come from your art, and it needs to be pure. It needs to have meaning. Needs to have emotion, and it needs to have creativity, and it needs to have skill, and all of those things, right? So build to flip art is not going to stay, especially once we introduce creator level. They're going to get buried. They're going to get hammered, because the true artists are going to shine through, because they are the ones who get represented at exhibitions, who get written about, etc., and they're going to rise to the surface. Now, one thing, you know that right now, people, artists, build to flip because it's how you make money. It's a living. Okay, I get that, right? But what we have to do, and we will be doing, is starting to educate artists about terms like uh, in the SaaS, in the software as a service model, there are terms like ARPU, average revenue per user. We need to start training artists to think about average revenue per artwork, where you focus your time on on creating an artwork maybe every month, every 2 months, or whatever, instead of really creating volume. Volume is not the way to do it. It's really about being consistently producing something of value, and it doesn't have to be over a fixed time period. It's really uh, making sure that you are taking advantage of the compounding that our platform is going to provide. What do I mean by that? Every artwork you create should make you money for the rest of your life. That's compounding. As you add more and more artworks, your revenue increases, your recurring revenue increases. So I want artists to be able to get to the point where we help educate them and think about average ARPA, average revenue per artwork, instead of average revenue per user. And also think about terms like MRR, monthly recurring revenue. Okay. We want to get away from this sale made me this much, or how much money I made in a month from just a number of artworks, because people think in terms of single licenses right now. NFT is one and done. We are done with NFTs. We will have them as a small part of your revenue stream, but really all these other avenues we are creating are going to result in MRR, monthly recurring revenue. So now you can backtrack from that and think about average revenue per artwork, and think about the cadence you need to have. If you want to have a cadence, you could also say, no, I'm going to create when I feel like creating, or when the creativity strikes me, right? But we got to get away from this notion of marketing art. It's for sales, creating to flip. When I look through our site, and I see the 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 artworks, we have the cool cluster, right, grouped by creators. I pay attention to the ones that are changing and having really, really high numbers, like numbers in the hundreds or the thousands, even. And I'm like not sure that those artists will survive for very long, simply because to produce that many artworks in that short of time, it's impossible for you to focus on quality. That just, you cannot argue otherwise. There is no way that for a product like art, that you can crank it out that with that frequency and produce high quality artworks that will be in demand by curators, by customers, for streaming, for printing, etc. Not going to happen. So we'll get in. This is going to be a process. We learn, we educate about the financial models that we are building for artists right now, but long term sustainable income is not going to come from building art to flip. It's going to come from building meaningful art that takes advantage of your creative instincts, your creative skills, and you build something that resonates with people. uh, it can't be flip done. It's not going to work that way.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of talk, in Discord. I get DM'd, from various artists that, had their vault blocked, or maybe they weren't onboarded at this time. And it's always a point of frustration for us because we want to open the door for everybody. We want to just kind of have a free market and that sort of thing. But the problem is that, when we do our due diligence on each artist, we made it clear from the beginning that established artists are welcome to join, the blockchain prior to list. But if you're an emerging artist, or if you're, you know, don't really have a social presence, and you're not an established artist, now is not the time to onboard with Vitruveo. We'd love to have you once we list, and once we're out of beta. But there's a lot of, there's some artists that are just really frustrated with the process, with the onboarding process, with not being able to list all of their artwork. They feel that it's overly regulated. And you are absolutely right. It is overly regulated, but that's by design. It's not. It's not supposed to be punitive. It's not that we're trying to create this Gestapo or this restrictive platform. we are really trying to build with quality. And once we have the ecosystem built out and we go to list, then it's going to go to free market, and everybody is welcome to join Vitruveo, whether you're a hobbyist, whether you're, you just want to try your luck and and start your artist career is fine. But we will have a way of sorting through, in terms of, quality or established artists versus somebody that's just starting out. And it's a delicate balance of trying to do that. Um, uh, Yakababa says, how much time does it take for art consignment? It's pending for days for now. So this is kind of, why I'm kind of going down this road. We do our due diligence in terms of reaching out. Every single artist that comes aboard does get researched. And again, this is just really in the beginning stages, that we have to do all of this, where um, our vision is that it's going to be immediate in the future. But you have artists that are selling artwork on other platforms for $10 and then frustrated that they can't come and on board with Vitruvio and sell for $250. There's a point of frustration there, and I understand it. It's just, you have to understand that we're not ready to accept everybody at this time. But we're only 60 days away, God willing. So hopefully we can see an update on that. Nick?
Also, let's not forget that our moderators are distracted by bad actors. They're
Yeah,
wasting all their time fixing, those, and that means everyone else gets delayed. So
yeah,
um, it is a problem.
yeah. So Rohan says, wow, Fiverr use case would be great to add for Vitruvio at some point. And I think one thing that I'm working on right now is building out, future ecosystem based on the Amazon model, where we have Vitruvio, where we have Exhibit rather, in the center, and then we have all of these different revenue streams. I really do want to kind of build out um, this Fiverr model. It's because you don't have to sell that. It's just, hey, I have a need. I need a logo design. I need, a web app designed. I need, this, designed. You have WeWork, you have Fiverr, you have all of these different sources of revenue that we need to capitalize on. And so I think that's a huge opportunity for us. And, the wedding invitations, that people want designed. You have business card design. You have all of these different real world applications for artists. And we don't just want to sell NFTs, we want to sell art. And I think that this is going to be a huge revenue source for us. So we're kind of building that out, which is great. So thanks for the feedback, Rohan. At Nick and at Mike, will the ads marketing be implemented as well?
Yeah, what we are talking about here is we want to start doing advertising for the artworks on our platform. Um, been thinking about that quite a bit, and the approach we're going to take is leverage curations. So stacks, that is. We're gonna look at. We're trying to come up with models where we use stacks as sort of a benchmark to gauge how interesting an artwork is, and perchance use that as a way to choose which artworks get marketed. I don't think we can market every artwork. As a trial, we'll start with some of the ones that catch people's attention, which is why it gets into stacks, and then go on with other artworks. But the idea is that we want to experiment with Google Ads and other ads where we actually have uh, artworks marketed. I think that's what the question is about, but it could be
Hmm.
about some other vector.
Hmm. Yeah, we'll start hitting the actual marketing, or at least, Nick and I still have to talk about this, but our vision is that we're really going to start hitting hard the marketing, because marketing is super expensive. You, you most, you're talking about 50 to 100,000 a month in terms of, cost for marketing, for doing ads, influencers. PR, agencies and that sort of thing. It definitely takes a lot, and we're trying to be fiscally responsible while at the same time we have to market. So we're finding that balance, and the best thing that we can do is perfect the flywheel to really have organic growth, taking place, because that's free. That's just building a great product, and I think that we've got some work to do over the next 60 days really to facilitate that. The problem is that when we're focused on so many different things, we get focused on the weeds rather than the big vision of what we're trying to do. So I know Nick and I are really going to be focusing on that over the next 60 days. Okay. Uh, Nick, is it possible to wait on lowering the rebase until the beginning of December, or must it be done now?
Uh, well, we're still working on it. The protocol is still undergoing testing. So it might happen organically that way. Um,
Yeah.
it's been a little slow getting that part done. Um, so yeah, it might
And we
organically.
also talked about the idea of embracing that idea, Nick, of rather than the rebase just naturally increasing, but it only increases as transaction volume
Yeah,
increases. Do you want to speak
yeah,
to that a little bit?
yeah, and that's actually something I talked about. Well, when we did the last spotlight, I forget, and I think that's go. We're gonna do that.
Yeah.
So in
Great.
other words, there is no daily increment in the transaction goal. The increment in the transaction goal is triggered by the rebase itself. So when a rebase occurs, the transaction goal goes up also, which means that the possibility of um, uh, achieving a rebase will increase significantly if we are not seeing just blips in traffic. If there's a consistent growth in traffic, then the rebases will also be consistent.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's a great way of doing it. Okay, what would be the cost of the ads marketing campaign as it started? Yeah, Kelly, we kind of addressed that. We're going to first focus on organic marketing. Obviously, the conference was a very cheap way of marketing relative to influencers and pay-per-click campaigns and hiring a PR agency. A PR agency is around 20 grand a month, minimum. And then all they're really going to do is do press releases and some of these things that we actually one of the companies I'm meeting with this week is a PR agency, but they do a lot of it's self-directed PR where they're providing some sort of ecosystem that we can kind of go in and do our own kind of PR management to save costs. So we're exploring that as well. And I forgot to mention AI. There's a huge surge in AI with crypto. That was another thing that was really covered in the conference. So we're looking at that as well. Okay. That's what I had starred, Nick. Do you see anything else?
No, that's about good. And honestly, I've had a very long day, so it's a good time to call it. And like I said, it intended for this to be a quick update about our conference and the gallery meetings, which we've done. We're gonna come again on Friday with way more details about things. Mike, you had a slide in there, which I'm happy to put up there. But we can also give a general update. Look, there's a bunch of things here that are in the air, such as the VUSD being retired in a couple days. We've still got pending things that are due on scope, like the staking up update. We've got VO referrals, the Orbit purchases, etc. Please give us another 3 or 4 days. Well, exactly 4 days actually. We'll either have everything resolved or give you a firm update on what is being done by Friday. We'll get all of that done. Uh, Most of the delays I will take accountability for, because I just haven't had any bandwidth to either tackle or approve or help people move forward on some of these things, because my focus has been to take advantage of the time I'm here. So, but like I said, day after tomorrow, I'm back in the US, back at it, and by Friday we'll have all the open issues resolved.
Yep. And I've been off Discord. I've been dabbling in it here and there, but I have seen all of the orbit posts and that sort of thing. So be rest assured, guys, we're definitely on top of it. We This has just been kind of like both learning and productivity with a fire hose, over the past week. So we just need a little break in order to digest everything, reorganize everything, and that way we can deliver updates responsibly rather than just give smoke and mirrors. We're not interested in just telling you guys what you want to hear. We definitely
Yeah,
want to give concrete updates and real world updates. So
yeah.
thank you.
If I look tired, it's not tired. It's really more,
It's
I think
bandwidth.
it's bandwidth. It's also fatigue in a way, but also people need to realize, if you don't travel frequently, it always looks very glamorous. But let me tell you, there's nothing glamorous about spending 16 hours in a seat. There's nothing glamorous about having your whole circadian rhythm flipped by 12 hours. And yeah, uh, it takes a toll, and you try, but you have to maintain your best, and continue to keep things going. So I'm not making any excuses. I'm just saying that, as human beings, we have certain limitations, and travel brings out those limitations very, very fast. uh,
Yeah.
you know so yeah, we're doing the best we can, and we'll keep continuing to do the best we can, and then some. We want to always excel, but yeah. So day after tomorrow, back in the US, back at it. And Friday, we will have a detailed update for all of you, and we'll continue to move the needle on this. We are this Some really exciting things from this trip.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
very happy that we made it, and yeah, we're going to see some great exciting things come out as a result of it. But I urge you, as we do, to calibrate your expectations. Nothing ever happens with just a flip of a switch. Everything requires a process and a set of actions, and then results happen. And that's exactly, so. Everything is on track. That's what I'm pleased to say. Everything is on track, and we are excited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much. It was great seeing you. 458 people joining us today. So thanks again. Thank you, Nick, for all your hard work in Dubai. I think the trip was an unbelievable success. But again, it's you go through. 7 days of just fire hose information, and now it's time to unpack. And it's like, okay,
Yes.
what are my takeaways? What sort of things are we going to shift? What problems do we have to address? And I know that we're working on that right now. And over the next 3 days, I'm going to be in meetings and trying to coordinate with Nick while he's still over there. Some of these meetings that we have to have traction on because there's once you get like 2 weeks 3 weeks away from the conference, interest level for attendees kind of starts to fizzle out. So we're trying to maximize the effectiveness from those meetings over the next week or two, following up with galleries as well as following up with VCs as well as collaborative partners that we feel are going to be a right fit to help push the chain forward. So yeah, but thanks again, guys. Thanks, Nick. Get some rest. And I know it's probably what, midnight over there right now?
10:30. It's
Oh,
it's
ten
still
thirty.
reasonable.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, oh, you got
Right.
another like 5 hours of work to do. So get to work.
Yes. All right. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you there. And I will be. Um, I don't know if it'll be Thursday, but I'll be resuming the buying blitz and Saturday Night Fever and all of that. I just haven't been able to do that while I'm traveling, so we'll get all of that going again, and it's exciting. So thank you all, and we'll see you.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you in Discord. Bye.
Bye.